Hi.
Hi, Waweru.
So today we're doing things slightly differently. We're going to have a bit of a tete-a-tete.
Right.
Look at what we've done, what stood out for you, what challenges we had, and what fun we actually had as well.
True.
Yeah.
We've done 22 episodes
Wow.
so far.
It doesn't, when time flies when you're having fun.
Indeed, that's what they say.
From Cairo to Cape Town, Lagos to Lamu, 54 nations, one continent, countless perspectives. Hi, my name is Waweru Njoroge.
Hi, I'm Okoh.
Welcome to Panel 54, a global perspective through an African lens. This is the podcast where we unpack power, people, policy, and the paradoxes that define our time, with nuance, with history, and a deliberate commitment to context. This isn't punditry, it's perspective. It's not a briefing, it's a reframing, and it starts right here.
And of course, a plethora. Is that a word? It's a word.
Yeah,
It's actually, I didn't make that up.
Sounds about right, yeah.
So, a plethora of subjects,
Yes.
matters, issues that we've brought and had conversations around. But very rarely do you have an opportunity to really say what it is you do feel about some of these things. It took me a while to realize or to figure, I knew that I definitely am a Pan-Africanist. And that if you were to cut me open, then you would see that I do bleed for Africans. So some of these conversations, I realized I resonated with them, but I would think about them later.
That's the thing. And I don't know which ones particular stood out for me. I mean, obviously, I have to now blow my own horn, and
Okay.
I wish you'd come for that trip. But interviewing Kufuor, I think, okay, apart from like being starstruck, yeah, I mean, this is an ex-president that you're actually interviewing. He put a lot of perspective in terms of how Africa generally can develop if we play our cards right. And that's not paying the piper in terms of getting onto all these debts that we have with various nations around the world, but in terms of how leadership should actually work. One of the things I always believe is that we need fewer rulers and more leaders. But I suppose at one point we had monarchies and things like that. So rulers were able to tell you what to do and how to do it. And obviously that has now changed now with aspects of Gen Z, which we also brought in as well, and how diplomacy works and all that kind of stuff. And also then touches on aspects of how much we open ourselves up to foreign, or I'd say foreign influence as well. So for me, that was probably the episode that my highlight, but I also did like the conversations that we've had, the less, the ones that were not as heavy. We discussed things like Chan, which was actually a very fun episode. We've also talked, security was very heavy, but we also looked at, I'm just looking at the other episodes we actually did, A Seat at the Table, which was talking about diplomacy when we talked to Tom Omolo. We had the conversations about power, protests, and the new price of influence in Africa with Stella Rigi, and she was very eloquent. A lot of fun. We've had guests who've now done runners.
Indeed.
You need to weigh in on that one.
We talked about cultural diplomacy, and I think that was a big one because of the fact that usually we think about leadership across the continent as brick and mortar without realizing that there are many other things that you can actually do to really present the nations as different. What do we do with our sportsmen? What do we do with our musicians and our artists and all of this? I mean, of course, me being Nigerian.
I thought you were about to say I was like, oh my gosh.
No, that would have really done it.
I?
No, that's absolutely wrong. Being Nigerian, I've come from a place where the drama, the sports, everything, those are the things you think about when you are talking about how you lead. Because it's all over the place. It's music, it's movies, it's sports, So that really resonated with me, that we can actually do a lot more. We can do better. And I think that's it, that I just keep saying, can we just do better? And I want to take somebody and string them up the tree and, okay, maybe my violent streak is also showing. Because why can't we just do better? We can do a lot more with what we have than we are actually doing. And we don't do it.
So where does the buck stop or even start? Excuse me, from that perspective, in terms of who is going to take the onus of saying we can do more? I mean, there's all this says we can do, but where is the action point?
It may sound so simplistic, Njoroge, but I think that in terms of just doing it, and that those guys were up to something when they come up with that
slogan. Yes, I was going to say, yeah.
You know, just do it, because we have so much that we keep talking and talking and talking, and very rarely do we do it, and nobody asks permission. Hey, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
The people who did it didn't ask permission from anybody to get it done. They just did it, and then people found them along the way. What stops us from
whose toes are we going to be stepping on by
that?
actually doing it?
Exactly.
You know,
and the thing is that we did it before. Don't tell me that the times when we had it was called the transatlantic trade for a reason. But when we did that, who were we asking permission from? When on this continent we discussed the very, very basics, algebra, mathematics, trade, that nobody had to ask, governance, systems of governance that in some parts of the continent still are today. Who are we asking permission from?
True.
Am I getting irritated enough?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's still more to go.
Right?
One thing I know for a fact is, and we talk about this all the time, Africa is a rich nation in terms of minerals, resources, etc., etc. We export raw materials, and we import refined disappointment. That's how I'd basically put it, from that perspective of we should be able to stand on our own 2 feet by now. I mean, most countries here have been independent, 50 years?
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
50 to 60 years.
50, 60 years, yeah.
It's the age of most African nations.
You'd have thought there's a learning curve from there, surely.
There should have been, and I think that's what makes it so sad.
Yes.
At the point where we are. And then to think that even with all of that, there is currently the recolonization of Africa, in my opinion. But that the recolonization of Africa is coming from the East.
Mm-hmm.
And that in this day and age, when you have a more woke population, young people knowing what they're doing, being in tandem, in touch with the world, that was still controlled to a very far extent, and we don't even know it.
It's called debt trap diplomacy, and we know who's doing it. But the question is, what you're talking about in terms of people being woke, and I'm looking at the perspective of now, the Gen Zs, who could turn around and say very easily, listen, we will not be recolonized. My issue with that is the fact that I don't, and this is not to talk badly about Gen Z, I'm not sure they have a leg to stand on in terms of what they actually stand for. Do they understand the dynamics of how governments are run? Do they understand the dynamics of how our debt is getting? I'm sure a lot of them actually do, but many of them maybe not have enough voices to be able to stand on a pulpit or and say, listen, we will not only protest against bad governance or bad finance bills and stuff like that. And this goes across the region, not only within Kenya, obviously. We had aspects in Nepal and various other places where Gen Zs have actually protested. But they're coming from, obviously, a very emotional position, which makes sense. And a lot of them now are able to drill down and say, okay, fine, from a constitutional perspective or financial perspective, this is what we're standing up for. But I don't think there's enough of them to actually say we have the mass to actually then change things.
Enough of them, or enough of them with the coalesced collective will to then say we won't accept this anymore, or that we will insist. At the very least, we insist that if you're in that position, you must then do something that's going to get us to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we flirt with the idea of revolution without realizing that it is a bloody affair, and that we think, okay, yeah, well, we're resolute in our minds that we're not going to take this anymore. But revolution was bloody. Think about what happened when, in the times before, you had independent states, as it were, like Great Britain or the United States, that people fought bloody wars to be able to get to the point where they stood on their own. And I don't think revolution in its stature or in its makeup has changed.
Are we chickens? Well,
cluck.
Well, in that sense, yes, we don't, obviously, now talking about being woke, we obviously understand the human rights and the value of human life and everything. So maybe it's to say, harking back to that time, maybe it was not as prominent in terms of, it would not hit the headlines about X amount of people being killed in Tanzania because of an election.
Yeah.
In the same token, then I'm looking at it from the perspective of saying, where's our next Nkrumah coming from? Where are our next Nelson Mandelas?
I sigh because that there are folks that may be in the rumblings of such conversations today. But what is happening, because I think about times when Nkrumah and Mandela spoke, did the things that they did, that the terrain at that point was raw, whereby they could speak against a particular thing because there was something pushing back.
Okay.
In this case, today, what's pushing back? Again, recolonization. What's pushing back? That look at what's happening with China across Africa. That what option do you have to think about manufacturing per se when everything you would possibly need is available to you for a song, but from an external party?
Yeah.
When you think about things like that,
You see,
you weigh that too.
we export raw materials and import refined disappointment.
Yeah.
You
You
know?
think about it and you think, okay, a young person who might want to develop something today, where is the governance support?
Incubation hubs do exist, but then fine. I come up with this
Who are they
wonderful.
owned by? Who are they funded by?
Yeah,
Waweru?
fair enough. I see what you mean.
You see?
I mean, we have we claim to have we don't have manufacturing right now, but I know for a fact from some personal experience in terms of, and I'm going to obviously come Kenya centric, things like DLP, the Digital Literacy Program, was tendered and what have you. And one of the conditions of the tender is you have to have local manufacturing
Right.
or local assembly. In the notion of that, it makes a lot of sense because you are going to create some jobs or pockets of jobs. But all the material was coming from China. Including the motherboards, including the components, including the assembly lines, all coming from China. So they had a hand in that either way. So for them, it's a win. It's a win-win-win-win. Whereas for us, it's So for me, that aspect in terms of looking at if we were to be able to do our own manufacturing, what we'd want to say, and this I think is what Torre is doing right now, is to say, fine, we welcome, your technical abilities and everything.
Yeah.
But you are going to come in and you're going to, instead of us going there to benchmark, you're going to come here, you're going to show us how to do things, and then we will take it up from
And
here.
then we leave. Because what's happening now, if we can be very honest about it, is that if you want to build a road, well, they're building a road that is going to connect Abuja to Minna in Nigeria. Or if you're in Nairobi, you're going to connect what's the conversations in Kenya where you're having a conversation about connecting the rail between Naivasha and Kisumu going all the way to Malava, is that you will have a plan. There will be a partnership between a nation and China. But who are the people who are coming in to do the work? Who's getting the expertise? It's not Kenyans. It's not Nigerians.
It's the Chinese who are
It's
being
the
deported
Chinese.
for treating indigenous people in Africa badly.
There you go.
You know?
That's it. It's Chinese who are coming here, who they're working here. They are essentially not allowing the development of expertise on the continent, because when you say that we are partnering with you, you're bringing your own expertise here. They finish the work and they go. Who gets the value? We don't get the value.
Two things. One, in terms of that debt trap diplomacy, I'll come back to that. But in the aspect of these people who are coming in to basically say, okay, fine, you need this money, we're going to supply you infrastructure, etc. But the buck has to stop at probably a leadership level. That's where I'm coming from. And they say, okay, fine, and we're exporting labor to the UAE and everything. And so we're saying, okay, fine. So you can come in, you can do the infrastructure, but there's a disconnect somewhere in the sense that where do we then become owners of what we have brought you in to actually do?
Sadly.
And yes, okay,
Sadly,
another side right there. And on the flip side of that, fine, we have, I think the one thing about the Chinese is they're very clean. Well, not very clean. They're not very transparent, but in the sense that on the face of it, we will give you money, or we'll help you develop your infrastructure.
Yeah.
And you owe us. That's why I'm saying it's debt trap diplomacy.
Okay.
As opposed to, we will only lend you money, and this probably happened when now we got into things like multi-party democracy, if you reform certain things. We as IMF will only give you money if you increase your taxes to this amount so that you can pay us back.
I think the worst debt, Waweru, regardless of who is coming from, the worst debt is the one that disallows nations, sovereign states, from having a say in, number one, the interest that you will pay, and number two, what are the conditions that will be tied to that debt. This is the worst kind of debt where you don't have a say. I don't care who it comes from. But the worst is that you cannot control the conditions around that debt. And I think that's the problem that a lot of African nations are in today. That you had a seat at the table. Okay, well, you had a seat. I don't know that it was at the table. Maybe it was somewhere in the corner. And then when we're done with the table over here, we can tell you what we're going to do. And then we're going to wrap you up in this thing. The problem is that poor, bad leadership and governance then doesn't use that debt in the development that it's meant to be for. And then your assets are up for sale to the highest bidder.
Your ports, your airports, everything like that. And the thing is, we look at a perspective. Well, you said the word poor, and that jumped at me in the sense that I believe, I could be corrected in this, part of the reason why we have such a wonderful influx of Chinese products, which are made on the cheap and brought here, is because we probably could not afford to buy the stuff that we make here.
Because the real stuff that they take to other places is real, man.
So we'll be happy to just say, okay, fine, bring in your cheaper imports, and we can afford it, because at the moment my Kenya shilling or my Naira or whatever cannot afford to buy this other stuff. So by virtue of the fact that we are so poor, I think allows us to then say, yeah, it's okay. I mean, these guys are coming in there helping us. Help, I put that in quotations. And I'm looking from a but the thing is, they've also brought a lot of technology, which has been, it's not all bad per se. Technological advancements and things like that. But again, all the resources that they're using to build microchips and all these kind of things are coming from here.
I think they also do employ, this is true.
Okay.
Essentially, it's taking coffee out of Ethiopia and out of Kenya and sending it out and putting it back and selling the coffee back to you. It's taking chocolate out of Ghana and putting it in chocolate bars and bringing it back and selling it back to you. That's what we're talking about here. But what when I look at all of this, and I tend to think, you know what? It's what I have coined, and call me author or whatever. I've coined the they know they know theory.
Okay.
They know that your leadership is terrible and that your governance sucks. They know that. They also know that they know. So they will do whatever they want. They know that you're not going to be able to stop it in the short term, because what are you going to do? You're going to say, don't bring in cheap Chinese products, but your people are gobbling them up. They're being sold in the markets. You're going to say, well, then we're going to have a say about what kind of grade of product that you bring. Can you afford it? No, you've used half your money that should be used for development in other things that cannot be named or mentioned. So they know you know. They know they know. And that's why they're going to continue getting away until you do or say something about this knowledge that is available to everybody.
And now this I'm looking also at the perspective of, I think it's one episode we talked about where there's a lot of, say what you will, there's a lot of media that is actually, and then I'm sure these journalists who've been taken to China to write about the wonderful things that China is doing. And I'm sure some of it, and I'm not saying that all of it is bad. There's obviously positive stories that are coming out of China that have to be recognized. But therefore, now we're talking about soft diplomacy, where you can then say, for all intents and purposes, and I'm going to call a spade, it's a bribe. Here's a plane ticket. Here's a scholarship. Come and stay in the best hotels. Go write a good story about China.
It is, and we'll give you a little bit of something to spend on the real stuff,
But if they're not given, if African continents are not given the opportunity to actually do something and write stuff about Africa that is good and what have you, saying, listen, I can afford to pay you more, and I can probably make your life a lot easier if you come and write good stories about us, then invariably most people turn around and say, okay, fine, this is a lower hanging fruit for me. I'd rather take this. Plus, I also get an opportunity, to travel, and they also give out scholarships for these kind of things. So there's an education factor in there as well. So yes, I've called it a bribe, but I mean, if it's soft diplomacy, if it works for you, then I guess it goes back to what you're saying about
that one. Do you think that China, because in the boardrooms when they sit and foreign policy towards Africa is crafted, do you think that they imagine, well, let's go to Africa because they need some help? And, we're in a position to help, and we can help.
Which benevolence would that? Where is that benevolence?
Do you think that's the conversation that they have?
That would be benevolence. There's no such thing.
So it's not for you. This is what I'm saying. It's for them. It's not for you. So that's why we will not see any kind of quid pro quo. We won't see that because it's not what the intent was in the very beginning.
Yeah, economically, I think we import about, I can't remember the figures, are like $540 million worth of goods, and and from us they buy like 54 million.
How many of those products are you seeing on Chinese shelves?
Here? Or in our products there.
Yes.
Apart from what we're known for is coffee, and if we could export corruption, we'd be minting millions and millions. If we could export, if we could physically can corruption and export it. But who would? Well,
we laugh, but it's quite sad. It's interesting because even as you're talking about that, I think about how we do this panel 54, and sometimes it's really, really difficult to then be able to have conversations with people about a certain agenda.
Yes,
and we can put an episode up every Friday, as it were. But what happens in the background to then be able to, get it running sometimes is teeth pulling exercise that we can be here with the lights on, camera, action, and there's no one because life sometimes happens. Cancellations are ridiculously crazy. We've had cancellations on us from ex-presidents to former presidents to authors to people in between who just, didn't fulfill for us.
There's a story between that ex-president, behind that ex-president not showing up. And what was that reason?
Well, here we are looking at, we wanted to have a conversation about the happenings in Tanzania. And this is just around the time where the election of the now, first full term Samia Suluhu. And we were going to talk with an ex-president after the protests and just after her swearing in. But there was a kind of, back and forth in terms of how it was going to happen. Are we going to come into the studio? Are we going to have this conversation? Are we going to do this? And then the chatter began.
Yeah.
The chatter began about who in his family then may have been part of government. It was very clear then that there was something that was holding him back from coming to have a conversation with us. And not more than a week later, we find out that his son has been named to cabinet. So it was clear that conversation was not going to be had.
Although we were told, you can interview us at 8 p.m. at night
for 30 minutes. So that was clearly knocking. There you go. So you can imagine all of this crew, production equipment, everything, trotting off to a hotel to have a conversation with a former president who's involved in the brokerage of peace deals in different countries, and also, in governance in his own country. And then for 30 minutes, what are you talking about? Time to say hello, how are you? 17 minutes have gone. So this is one of the intrigues that we have to deal with on panel 54, to have conversations with people who sometimes may want to, but they're precluded by circumstance. Sometimes.
And then we've had 2 cancellations from the same person.
We have.
Was that Abdi?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be talking about things in the horn.
Yes.
There's never any reason as to why that didn't happen.
At least this one we have tangible reason.
Yeah.
I think the first one was that he had been called to State House. The second one, I don't know what was going on. But so it's not always fun and games.
It isn't always easy to have these conversations that you would imagine that some of the things that we want to discuss. And then obviously sometimes serendipity just plays a role here because
True.
Okay, so somebody who was supposed to do what they were supposed to do didn't do it, and then that has us at a loss, we were supposed to have a conversation with one of the women who I consider to be an absolute hero, and we couldn't do that because a fixer didn't fix.
He fixed himself.
Essentially.
But also, I want us to look at, outside of cancellations, in terms of, I think one of the, you're in media on a different station, and a lot of it tends to be, obviously because we are in Kenya, very Kenya-centric. At Panel 54, we talk about a global perspective through an African lens. And I think what makes Panel 54 stand out from a lot of other podcasts is we do go above and beyond to try and get as many different voices as we can.
Yeah.
I think one of our most popular episodes that hit overnight was the interview with the CIA dude.
Yeah.
Sorry, I say dude.
But why not? Because it sounds
CIA,
very CIA. Dude.
He did give a disclaimer that he cannot reveal too many things, but there was an interest that was piqued from that. And I think when we talk about a global perspective through an African lens, I think we need to start shining that lens a bit more, from that perspective. I think we had an episode also with Seth Bobke from Ghana talking about mining of gold.
Yep.
So those are kind of conversations that you not typically tend to hear on other podcasts, and I think that's what makes us stand out. Behind the scenes, obviously, we've got our producers and our executive producers and the people who put this together, who we're very, very grateful for. Thank you so much.
You're not going to get by without saying that.
No. Yeah. But it is a team effort. And I suppose, Hannibal Smith from A-Team. I love it when a plan comes together. That's when you can go home and say, and the feedback a lot of people give us, obviously, is very critical,
That we can have conversations in spaces where we ordinarily wouldn't, or ordinarily didn't. And I think that's what we have the opportunity to do across different, issues, different categories, different genre, that we can do that. Because, the art of conversation is slowly starting to lose its potency. But we can bring that back, because I always say two things happen after a conversation. We keep talking about it, so we keep it in the front burner, or we do something about the situation.
True, thank you. The doing something is what now, that's the pace we should be setting. We say we're going to get so-and-so on. Barring any natural catastrophes and everything, we will pretty much
bring them here, and we'll have this conversation. We'll talk about the thing. Let's do it.
Who would you most want to have in panel 54?
I thought about that, and you know what? I would love to, just because of things that are happening recently. Can I do more than one? Okay, let's go.
It's a free country.
Oh, thanks. So Julius Malema.
Okay.
Of course, I think about his politics from a very young age. And then what he speaks for South Africa, and then what he speaks for Africa. So maybe there are three.
Okay.
And then also Wole Soyinka.
Okay.
And then Muammar Gaddafi. Posthumously.
No.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's
yeah.
Who would you not want to have?
Who would I not want to speak to on panel 54? The devil in blue dress. I'm kidding. Oh my goodness. Don't want to talk to... I don't know that there's anybody I wouldn't want to speak with.
And then what's the chances we get them on the show?
I wouldn't want to speak to the fella who put the bracelets on Patrice Lumumba.
Ah, okay.
In that moment, what would he have been thinking? That this is probably one of the most forward-thinking people that you have, but here I am, having to put him in these chains and then eventually kill him. But what would have been going through his mind? I wouldn't want to speak to him, because that must have been a horror that nobody wants to ever tell later, especially after the fact, after this all said and done. What was he thinking? I'm the one who captured this man and held him bound. He was never free again after I did this. I wouldn't want to talk to him. It'd be a horror for him.
Okay. I don't know anybody who I think off the top of my head who I'd say, wow, I need to have this person in the studio.
Yeah.
I don't know. Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
Well, because I had the biggest crush on Janet Jackson for the longest time. What should contribute in terms of a global perspective through an African lens? I suppose we could look at musical diplomacy.
We could talk about the lens, but okay.
Well, yeah, there's diplomacy through music. That's your soft diplomacy.
Sure.
To be honest, I would like to talk to Richard Branson again, because he did inspire a lot of the way I think, in terms of being able to say, don't conform. Don't be compartmentalized. Think outside the box. He took on the big boys. He took on British Airways. He took on and he made a name for himself outside of the Virgin brand and everything. I've always looked up to him. From an African perspective, I think Mulemba would definitely be one of those people. Tore would be fantastic.
Yeah. To kind of understand what goes through his mind. That here he is thinking that is I've just taken over your wishes.
That's my guess.
This was your guest, but I've decided what I want.
Okay, fine. You can have my guest.
Thanks. And the reason why is because I would want to imagine that here you are running a transition government that was put in place after a coup. But essentially you've done in a very short period of time what previous governments were not able to do over decades.
Does he, as young as he is, do you reckon he'll get the respect from Western countries?
I think he already has it.
Yeah.
But it's not spoken. It's not overt, because they must be thinking, who's this man? First of all, we've not been able to crack this thing. Who's this guy? I think he already commands their respect. I think that there's no way they're going to say it that, we respect this guy because he's been able to do what men have not been able to do before.
Yeah. Paul Biya?
Would I want to have a conversation with him? I don't know that he can.
Shame.
I am
Shame
sorry.
on you.
Did I say that out loud?
Actually,
this is a mic.
I was actually thinking about the same thing. I mean, we need to get him on before he kicks the bucket, which is a very nasty thing to say. But
come on, he's done his time. And that's the thing about us Africans. Sometimes we don't want to talk about impending death.
Yes,
because it's uncomfortable. We don't do
culturally,
it.
we don't do it.
We don't talk about death.
No.
But in this case, he's done if he did everything that he could. And if he didn't, I'm sorry, but he's not going to be able to do it now.
At 92,
no, he's not.
You are kind of spent.
He's not. Yeah, he's not really aware that he won the election.
I hope I do get to live to be 92. But yeah, I mean,
he was informed that he won the election.
Oh, he didn't actually.
This is what we're talking about
on radio.
Who knows? Somebody whispered to his bedside. I don't know.
You've been elected again.
By the way, oh, that's great, guys.
Okay, so I'm sure he's going to get one of those puppeteers to go and do the tours.
I mean, if they can campaign for you, they can do your,
That was one of the funniest. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Okay, so we know who you want to have, who you don't want to have. If we were able to travel, assume we have the budget.
Okay.
Right. Where would you then, if we couldn't do it here in studio, where would you be traveling to? Okay, apart from Julius Malemba, obviously, but where would you be traveling to actually do interviews?
For the culture or for where the people are?
Let's choose a subject matter. I don't know, industrialization.
Industrialization and where it really happened for us to be able to see. This is maybe. Oh wow, that's such a hard question because he said initially my answer was to have a lot of shows around the pyramids of Egypt.
Okay.
Or the pyramids of Sudan.
They've got a new museum, by the way.
There you go.
They've got a beautiful, new, massive, expensive museum.
$490 billion, something ridiculous.
But they had the money to do it.
They did, and they actually did it. I would want to go see the GERD.
Okay, yeah.
Do panel 54 with the waters of the GERD sprinkling at our feet for us to have an example of how a development project can actually be done with very, very little external resource. And, providing waters, even though they're having a little bit tiff about it, but hey, that can be done at the foothills of the GERD.
What would you say about Israel-Gaza then?
I know you're setting me up.
I'm asking a question.
What would I say about it? At least
in terms of we were told, if we say, okay, fine, let's go for an interview, Israel-Gaza.
Oh, where would we go? I would want to have a conversation on the Strip for sure.
I was going to say that would probably be the safest place in the first place, but that would be an amazing episode.
It would. Yeah, that would be great actually to have that.
If wishes or horses.
You know where else I'd go? I've been there before, but it would be great to have the conversation there in the Okavango Delta.
Okay.
In Botswana. Because there is it would be another cradle of mankind for you to actually see how resource has been used to benefit the people first, and that there's a say in terms of what you're going to then be able to do with our resources. And the government has been very clear. If you're going to come here to take from us, we will have a say in what you do and how you do it. Us first.
Something I would like to look at in terms of, panel 54 going forward. We have a lot of voices we're in studio, guests in studio and stuff like that. It would be nice to hear from people around the continent.
Yeah.
It
would.
Well, we call them, technically they're called vox pops. But in terms of, getting different perspectives we have our perspectives. We understand where we're coming from, and we know when we're prepping for the show and everything, where we're generally, how the conversations might work.
Yeah.
But take the mic out to somebody and say, okay, fine. So what do you think of soft diplomacy? What do you think? Talk to the Gen Zs, talk to the millennials and say, okay, fine. Do you think that we're being colonized by China? And see what they have to say.
What they have to say. We'd be surprised by the responses, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that to be able to hear the voice. And I think that's one of the problems, that we're not actually able to live out our development or our governance with fear and trembling, as it were, because our voices are not heard. There are not enough platforms that are propelling the voices.
Soapboxes would be interesting, but
Very.
there's a good chance you'd end up in jail immediately, given, you know. But the thing is, I'm going to go back to the aspect of rulers versus leaders. I think we've had enough conversations on panel 54 to try and give a semblance of what leaders should emulate or what leaders should be. Do we have that crop? I'm going to go back to the Gen Zs. Do we have that crop of people who have the business acumen, the diplomacy acumen, and everything to say that these people can be leaders? Or are they going to mimic? The reason I asked that question, when Martin Luther King was marching, obviously times were different at that time. People saw that and said, that is a leader because he's fighting for the rights of
People.
you know. So where is that void where we say, what are we fighting for? Yes, we have constitutional imbalances, we have economic imbalances, we have all manner of things. But again, I'll come back to that question in terms of, and I'm thinking when I tend to think too fast. So this is now my vox pop.
Yeah.
You go out and say to somebody in the mic, okay, fine, if you were president of Cameroon right now, if you were president of Ethiopia, if you were president of Kenya, if you're president, how would you lead? You know?
What would you do? I guess that the answer to that question for people would vary. But what if you think about it, what stops people right now from doing what's best for the state and for the people?
Rubber bullets, alleged rubber
Or if you look
bullets.
in the other direction, is that the need for self-gratification, self-need has far outweighed the burden that has been borne previously for people and nations.
Thank you. Okay.
It has changed.
Okay.
It has changed completely. Until we get that back, and I think that's probably one of few ingredients on this recipe that we're missing, that when we go back to the place where people, livelihoods, nations are the first priority, then the greed and the selfishness and the need to put more money in your pocket doesn't come into play.
So where did we lose? Where did the thread unravel in terms of, and this is something we've talked about this before, what are the priorities that leaders need to put in place for them to run a country or to lead a country in a manner that it should be led?
I mean, first of all, understanding that you're not in that position for yourself. You're in that position because you have been given. The power has been donated to you by the people.
So they've lost sight of that.
Absolutely.
Right? For them, it's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
Right? As one of the headlines was reading, especially about Tanzania, this was not, it was a coronation, not, you know. So Queen Suluhu herself. But I want to dig deeper and down and say, okay, fine, fundamentals. And I'll come back to this country again. Food, health, security. All right? But we're busy building stadiums. We're building housing for like 1,000 people when you have a constituency that has 1 million people.
Yeah.
And you have ramshackled Mabati schools.
Yeah.
Capitation has not been done. Yeah. So wouldn't you rather, if you're going to be an industrializer, or you want to become, and this is the punching bag for every single time we tend to have this conversation, we want to be like Singapore. Right?
Bring Singapore in.
You need educated people to be able to say that this is how we think the economy should work towards being whatever. But if you cannot even educate the general population right now, who's the next crop of leaders coming? Where are they coming from?
Where do you expect them to come from?
Do as I say and not as I do. I'm like, no.
In this case, you need to do as I do. But somebody said it beautifully, Waweru, that in order to become like the developed, you must do what the developed did.
Thank you.
There's no other way. That if I wanted to look like you, I must do what you did in order for me to get. I can't pull things out of a hat and expect that I'm going to get the same result if I do things differently.
But then the adage, monkey see, monkey do.
Monkey get banana.
Actually, interesting story. I'm going to digress. And this is a trap. Again, looking at the trap about how they catch monkeys in India.
Okay.
Right? They put a banana at the bottom of a jar or vessel.
Yeah.
That has a narrow neck.
Huh?
Yeah. The whole concept.
The banana is down there.
So the monkey puts his hand in the banana and grabs the banana and can't take its hand out
of the bottle
because it's still holding onto the banana, right? So the whole concept of letting go of the banana, right? This whole debt diplomacy trap, we are the ones holding onto the banana and we can't get out because we're holding on so tight. And the thing is, we're holding on so tight because there is the elite few who are getting their whatever they're getting. They're able to live in their lavish lifestyle, fly their jets, etc., etc., etc. The rest of us are being beholden to holding the banana because these few people, for them, it's obviously a benefit.
The elite few, unfortunately, are the ones who control the narrative. That the narratives of nations. Write this down because, this could be something. And then you can put my name under it and quote me. Yeah, I've forgotten it.
I'm taking notes. Yes, teacher.
The narrative is controlled by the elite few. It is the elite few who control the narrative of people and places today.
Mm-hmm.
That should that be put in the hands of the population for who democracy truly, truly bears on the hinges of that definition, then we would see a change.
Okay.
The few make the decision for themselves, not the designated power that their laws do. So if they release the hold, or if in the true definition of revolution, the people take that power back.
But we are averse to bloodshed. We're averse to bloodshed.
We are averse to bloodshed. Then it's like I said, the people who developed, there's something that they did. The people who revolutionized, there's something they did.
The times there are changing though. But coming back to what you're saying about, so the elite thrive on two aspects as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah.
Misinformation you can actually apologize for. Yeah, I was quoted or I got the numbers wrong.
Yeah.
Disinformation is more, it's evil, right? It's deliberate. I think the other day, His Excellency Ruto did his State of the Nation address.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, as far as I'm concerned, was disinformation. I don't think it was misinformation.
The PR was quite something, because in this case you can prove the opposite. That he says I fixed education. Well, you can look in the system and see that there's something that's still not.
So that's not misinformation.
It's disinformation.
That's definitely
it's a deliberate decision to give information that is just not true. Not because somebody may have given you the wrong numbers, but you know what they are, but you choose to give it differently. And unfortunately, we are lost in that vortex.
And that's
too often on the continent.
And that monopoly sits with the elite few, unfortunately.
Some of the stuff that we talk of on panel 54, and of course looking forward to more episodes where we can talk, about these things,
with
and then people can get to know
guests
that don't cancel,
yeah.
and that presidents who would come and sit here and have conversations with us, and of course the delightful time that I have that people don't know that you can recite some movies back to back. It's one of his hidden talents.
No, it's what you do when you're trying to test your voice. The one I always tend to use is something called the Jabberwocky, which was something that is a poem that I learnt in school. British education system, but yeah, it's
Humorous.
never helped my life.
Humorous?
No.
Oh,
sorry,
come
we don't have
on.
the time. It's a long one. But Jabberwocky, if you have a look at it, it's a nonsensical poem that means nothing at all. But it's a good way to do voice testing, especially because of intonation and flow and cadence and all those kind of things.
Definitely. So it's always great hosting this with you, and we're looking forward to more that we can. You've been listening to panel 54. Where we rethink the world one African perspective at a time. If this episode made you pause, reflect, or reframe, share it, start a conversation, and tag us in. Find us on our social media platforms at Panel 54 Pod. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and remember to keep the lens clear.